The world operates at a frantic pace for most of the week. From Monday morning to Friday evening, my life is governed by the harsh, unrelenting ring of an alarm clock. It is a world of tight schedules, urgent emails, hurried lunches, and the constant pressure to be productive. By the time Saturday night rolls around, my mind is usually spinning from the sheer velocity of the week. Saturday evenings are pleasant, of course, filled with social gatherings, movies, or the lively hum of a busy restaurant. But there is always a lingering energy from the week, a slight restlessness that is hard to shake off. It is only when I finally turn off my phone, crawl under the covers, and realize that tomorrow is Sunday that a profound shift occurs. Going to bed on a Saturday night feels completely different from any other night of the week. There is no anxiety about the upcoming morning. I do not have to set an alarm. I do not need to calculate how many hours of sleep I will get if I fall asleep right this second. Instead, I can simply breathe a sigh of relief and let the heaviness of the week melt into my mattress. I know that when I wake up, the day will belong entirely to me. There will be no deadlines to meet, no places I am forced to go, and no expectations to fulfill. As I lie in the dark, listening to the distant, muffled sounds of the city winding down, I can feel my heart rate slowing. The frantic energy of Saturday night begins to evaporate, making room for something much more precious: stillness. It is the anticipation of this stillness that makes the transition so magical. I close my eyes, not out of exhaustion, but out of a peaceful readiness to welcome a day that moves at its own gentle pace. I let myself drift off to sleep, knowing that the morning will bring no demands, only choices. It is the ultimate luxury in our modern, fast-paced world. The luxury of time, entirely uninterrupted. When Sunday morning finally arrives, it does not announce itself with a loud, piercing beep. Instead, it coaxes me awake with absolute gentleness. I open my eyes slowly, without that sudden jolt of adrenaline that usually accompanies a workday morning. For a few minutes, I simply lie still, letting my awareness catch up with my body. The first thing I notice is the quality of the light filtering through the curtains. It is not the bright, aggressive glare of a midday sun, nor is it the gray, rushed light of a Tuesday dawn. It is a soft, golden hue that seems to pool lazily on the hardwood floor. The temperature in the bedroom is pleasantly cool, creating a beautiful contrast with the deep, cozy warmth of my blankets. I stretch my legs, feeling the smooth texture of the sheets against my skin. There is an incredible comfort in these first few minutes of consciousness, where my only responsibility is to exist. I take a deep breath, inhaling the familiar, comforting scent of my home, a mix of clean laundry, faint wood, and the lingering peace of the night. Eventually, the desire to see the morning overcomes my desire to stay buried in bed. I slowly throw off the heavy blankets, feeling a brief chill as the cool air hits my skin. I slide my feet into a pair of soft, worn-out slippers and walk over to the window. As I draw back the curtains, the golden sunlight floods the room, warming my face. I look out the window and take a moment to take in the scene. The street below is completely quiet. There are no delivery trucks blocking the lanes, no commuters rushing toward the subway station with tense shoulders, and no traffic jams. The asphalt looks clean and calm under the morning sun. A gentle breeze rustles the leaves of the oak tree outside my window, making the shadows dance across the sidewalk. It feels as though the entire neighborhood has agreed to take a collective deep breath. I stand there for a moment, simply watching the stillness, letting the quiet energy of the outside world flow into me. I am fully awake now, not because I have to be, but because I want to be. With a sense of quiet anticipation, I turn away from the window and make my way toward the kitchen. In many ways, my kitchen is my sanctuary, especially on a Sunday morning. During the week, this room is a place of efficiency. I rush in, throw some bread into the toaster, swallow a quick cup of instant coffee, and rush out the door. But today, the kitchen demands a completely different approach. Today, everything will be done mindfully, with intention and care. I decide that this morning calls for a fresh pour-over coffee. This is a method that cannot be rushed, and that is precisely why I love it. I walk over to the counter and reach for my favorite ceramic mug, the one with the slightly uneven blue glaze that fits perfectly into the palms of my hands. Next, I gather the tools for my ritual: the glass carafe, the paper filter, the gooseneck kettle, and a bag of whole coffee beans. I pour a handful of dark, aromatic beans into the manual grinder. As I turn the handle, the kitchen is immediately filled with a loud, satisfying crunch. The physical effort required to grind the beans by hand connects me to the present moment. I can feel the resistance of the beans, and with every turn, the rich, earthy fragrance of fresh coffee grows stronger. It is an incredibly grounding experience. During the week, we rely so much on machines to do everything for us at the push of a button. Doing this manually feels like a quiet rebellion against that constant need for speed. Once the beans are ground into a fine, fragrant powder, I pour fresh water into the kettle and place it on the stove. I watch the small blue flames lick the bottom of the kettle, listening carefully as the water begins to heat up. It starts as a low, rumbling murmur, gradually building into a cheerful, bubbling boil. I turn off the heat and let the water sit for a moment to reach the perfect temperature. Now comes the most meditative part of the entire process, the pour. I place the ground coffee into the paper filter and gently pour a small amount of hot water over it. I stop and watch as the coffee begins to bloom. The grounds swell and expand, releasing tiny bubbles of trapped carbon dioxide and unleashing an intense wave of aroma that fills the entire kitchen. I close my eyes for a second, just inhaling that rich, complex scent of roasted nuts and dark chocolate. Then, with a steady hand, I pour the remaining water in slow, concentric circles. I watch the dark liquid drip slowly through the filter into the glass carafe below. It is a slow, rhythmic process that requires my full attention. My mind cannot wander to next week's to-do list or yesterday's worries. It is entirely focused on the stream of water and the rising steam. When the last drop finally falls, I pour the hot, steaming coffee into my blue mug. The weight of the mug comfortingly fills my hand, and the warmth radiates through my fingers. This coffee was not just made, it was crafted, and that makes all the difference. Holding the warm mug close to my chest, I walk into the living room and settle into my favorite armchair near the large bay window. I pull my legs up under me, wrapping a soft knit blanket around my shoulders. I take my first sip of the coffee, letting the rich flavor sit on my tongue before swallowing. It is perfect, smooth, hot, and deeply satisfying. From this vantage point, I can observe the world outside without being a part of its commotion. I look out at the street, which is gradually beginning to wake up, though it is doing so at a very leisurely pace. The sun has risen higher in the sky now, casting long, dramatic shadows across the pavement. I notice a few birds gathering on the branches of the oak tree just outside. They are chirping softly, a gentle melody that easily replaces the harsh sounds of car horns and construction that usually fill my weekdays. They hop from branch to branch, completely unbothered by the passage of time. Watching them reminds me of how simple life can be when we are not constantly chasing the next task. A few minutes later, I see my neighbor from across the street emerge from his front door. Usually during the week, I see him running to his car in a sharp business suit, holding a briefcase in one hand and looking anxiously at his watch. Today, however, he is wearing a loose gray sweatshirt and comfortable sweatpants. He walks down his driveway with slow, deliberate steps to pick up the Sunday newspaper. He doesn't rush back inside. Instead, he pauses on his porch, looks up at the blue sky, takes a deep breath of the crisp morning air, and smiles. It is a small, quiet moment, but it feels incredibly profound. It is as if we are all part of a secret club on Sunday mornings, a club where the only rule is to slow down. A young woman walks past, walking a fluffy golden retriever. The dog is sniffing every single blade of grass along the sidewalk, thoroughly enjoying its morning exploration. The woman does not tug at the leash or try to hurry the dog along. She simply stands patiently, hands tucked into her pockets, waiting for her companion to finish. Time seems to stretch out on a Sunday morning, becoming elastic and generous. There is no pressure to be anywhere else, no need to hurry through the present moment to get to the future. I sit by the window for a long time, sipping on my coffee and simply taking it all in, feeling deeply grateful for this peaceful interlude. After finishing my coffee, I decide it is time to transition into a mindful, screen-free activity. During the week, my eyes are constantly glued to a screen, whether it is my laptop for work, my smartphone for checking notifications, or the television for entertainment. This constant digital stimulation leaves my brain feeling cluttered and tired. Sunday morning is my sacred time to disconnect from the digital world and reconnect with the physical one. Today, I choose to read a physical book that has been sitting on my nightstand for weeks. I pick up the heavy hardcover volume, enjoying the solid weight of it in my hands. I open it to the page where I left off, listening to the crisp, satisfying sound of the paper turning. The book is a collection of essays about nature and philosophy, perfect for a slow morning. As I begin to read, I find myself completely absorbing the author's words. Without the temptation of incoming text messages or emails flashing on a screen, my attention span deepens. I read a paragraph, and then I pause to think about it, letting the ideas settle in my mind. There is a tangible, tactile pleasure in reading a real book. The smell of the paper, the texture of the pages under my fingers, the visual progress of moving from the left side of the book to the right. It forces me to slow my thoughts down to the speed of the printed word. After an hour of reading, I close the book and set it down on the side table. My body feels a bit stiff from sitting, so I roll out a soft yoga mat on the living room floor. I do not do a strenuous, intense workout. Instead, I ease into a series of gentle stretches. I reach my arms up high toward the ceiling, feeling my spine elongate, and then I slowly fold forward, letting my head hang heavy toward the floor. I take deep, slow breaths, sending oxygen to the muscles that became tense during the hectic work week. With every exhale, I imagine releasing the lingering stress and pressure from my shoulders and neck. I move mindfully from one stretch to another, listening closely to what my body needs. It is not about burning calories or achieving a perfect pose. It is about checking in with myself and showing kindness to my physical body. By the time I roll up the mat, I feel incredibly loose, grounded, and at peace with myself. By now, the morning has fully bloomed, and my stomach is beginning to rumble. I return to the kitchen to prepare a simple, leisurely breakfast. On work days, breakfast is an afterthought, something I eat quickly while standing up or checking my emails. Today, it will be an enjoyable experience in its own right. I decide to make scrambled eggs with fresh spinach and toasted sourdough bread. I crack the eggs into a bowl, their bright yellow yolks looking cheerful against the white ceramic. I whisk them gently, adding a splash of milk and a pinch of salt and pepper. I drop a small pat of butter into a warm skillet, watching it melt and sizzle softly. As I pour the eggs into the pan, they instantly begin to fluff up. I use a wooden spatula to gently fold them over, creating soft, creamy ribbons. The rich aroma of melting butter and savory eggs fills the kitchen. I pop a thick slice of artisanal sourdough bread into the toaster. When it pops up, golden and crisp, I spread a generous layer of salted butter over it, watching it melt instantly into the nooks and crannies of the bread. I assemble everything on a nice plate and sit down at the dining table. I eat slowly, savoring every single bite. The crunch of the toast, the creamy texture of the eggs, and the fresh taste of the spinach create a beautiful harmony of flavors. Eating without distractions allows me to truly appreciate the food and the effort that went into preparing it. As I clean up the few dishes, I find myself reflecting on the importance of these slow Sunday rituals. In our modern culture, we often wear busyness like a badge of honor. We praise ourselves for multitasking, for working late, and for always being on the go. But this constant rush can come at a very high cost to our mental health and personal growth. We need periods of rest and stillness to process our lives, to integrate our experiences, and to recharge our emotional batteries. Slowing down is not a waste of time. It is an essential investment in our well-being. It is during these quiet hours that my mind clears, allowing new ideas, creativity, and a sense of perspective to emerge. These hours remind me that I am a human being, not a machine designed solely for productivity. The afternoon is approaching, and the peaceful bubble of the early morning will eventually give way to the practical preparations for the upcoming week. I will have to look at my calendar, plan my meals, and get ready for Monday. But as I look out the window one last time at the sun-drenched street, I realize that I do not have to leave this internal peace behind. The calmness I cultivated this morning is not a fragile thing that will shatter at the first sign of stress. It is a deep reservoir of strength that I can carry with me into the hectic days ahead. When the week becomes chaotic and the pace of life accelerates, I can close my eyes for a brief moment and return to this exact feeling: the warmth of the mug, the soft golden light, and the absolute freedom of a slow Sunday morning. Armed with this inner stillness, I feel completely ready to face whatever the new week has in store for me.